Amelia's possession. Nestled amidst the lush landscapes of Kent, England, lies the village of Pluckley. Known far and wide as one of Britain's most haunted locations, the village seems almost suspended in time, shrouded in an atmosphere of eerie stillness. Locals talk of ghostly encounters, sightings of shadowy figures, and other chilling incidents that defy explanation. But among Pluckley's plethora of paranormal tales, none captures the imagination like the legend of the malevolent spirit imprisoned within an ornate wooden box, rumored to be hidden somewhere in the dark corners of Pluckley's mysterious woods. Amelia Reed, a 16-year-old with raven black hair and striking emerald eyes, was among the few youths who called Pluckley home. She lived with her parents in a charming cottage almost overtaken by the sprawling vegetation of the surrounding wilderness. Amelia's life was a tapestry of paradoxes. Her spirit brimmed with youthful curiosity and wanderlust, while her daily life was contained within the boundaries of an ancient village steeped in uncanny history. Unaware of the spectral history that colored her home, Amelia attended the village school, her academic performance earning her accolades and her personality winning her a small but loyal circle of friends. Rachel, the fiery redhead obsessed with books. Tom, a skinny lad with a knack for comedy. And Lisa, a reserved girl whose eyes always seemed to know more than they should. Together they were adventurers at heart, always eager to escape the mundane routine of village life. As the school year came to a close and the anticipation of summer grew among them, they decided that they needed an adventure to commemorate their coming of age. Gathering around a candlelit table in Amelia's cozy living room, they collectively decided to explore Pluckley's long-abandoned mansion, a dilapidated structure shrouded in stories and forbidden by village elders. "Are we actually going through with this?" Rachel asked, doubt clouding her features. Amelia's eyes sparkled in the dim light. "Absolutely. We need a tale of our own to contribute to Pluckley's legacy, don't we?" After exchanging nervous but excited glances, the group nodded in agreement. With that collective affirmation, they unwittingly embarked upon a journey that would not only alter the fabric of their lives, but also plunge the already unnerving atmosphere of Pluckley into a storm of supernatural terror. As the last vestiges of sunlight faded from the sky, Amelia and her friends assembled, filled with both excitement and apprehension. Donned in jackets and armed with flashlights, they set off for the mansion, an imposing edifice shrouded in overgrown ivy and hidden amidst the lush greenery of Kent. The exterior of the mansion was chilling, a stark contrast to the idyllic landscape that surrounded it. It was as if the walls had soaked up years of sorrow and despair, morphing into a hollow shell of its former grandeur. Its windows were broken and the doors creaked on their rusted hinges, presenting an unwelcoming threshold into a world long forgotten. The group's footsteps echoed as they ventured deeper into the mansion. The air grew denser, the atmosphere heavy with a sense of brooding anticipation. They finally arrived at a room that seemed to defy the general disarray of the rest of the mansion. The door was intact, and its carved wooden frame gave off a sense of importance. With a mixture of dread and excitement, Amelia pushed the door open. The room was different, unlike any other space in the dilapidated building. It felt almost preserved, as if time had stopped. Despite this, there was a palpable sense of age, an air thick with a mysterious odor, somewhere between old books and mildewed wood. A heavy curtain shrouded the room in near darkness, allowing only slivers of moonlight to illuminate its hidden treasures. Against one wall stood an ancient bookshelf filled with dust-covered tomes and faded parchments. A worn-out rug covered the creaking wooden floor, and at the room's center lay the source of their fascination, an ornate wooden box. Its surface engraved with symbols that seemed almost alive. "Should we open it?" Tom asked, his voice laced with both curiosity and a hint of fear. Before Amelia could reply, she felt an inexplicable pull toward the box, as if invisible threads were drawing her in. A low whisper seemed to emanate from the engravings, a chorus of ancient voices that spoke in a language she did not understand but felt oddly familiar. It was like being in a trance. Her surroundings became a blur, her friends' voices faded into the background, and all that remained was the box and the siren-like calls that beckoned her to touch it. Unable to resist, Amelia reached out and lightly traced her fingers over the arcane symbols. As she did, the symbols ignited with an ethereal glow, as if recognizing her touch as the key to their freedom. A frigid wind swept through the room, extinguishing their flashlights and plunging them into momentary darkness. Amelia felt a rush of energy engulf her, tendrils of malevolent force that infiltrated her consciousness, binding with her very soul. The flashlights flickered back on, revealing a room that had somehow grown darker, its very atmosphere altered. The group, now filled with a terror they could neither comprehend nor articulate, fled the mansion. But as they left, they unwittingly carried with them a newly unleashed darkness, its chosen vessel. Amelia. Feeling different, yet unable to comprehend the transformation, Amelia returned home. However, her alteration did not go unnoticed. The villagers of Pluckley, a place already steeped in supernatural folklore, felt a new strain of malevolence in their midst. As days turned into weeks following the ill-fated visit to the mansion, an insidious transformation began to overtake Amelia. It was gradual at first, almost imperceptible, but the villagers of Pluckley couldn't help but notice. Her eyes, once windows to a vibrant and generous soul, now seemed hollow and vacant. They glowed an unsettling hue of emerald, even in the dull light of dusk. Those who dared look into them felt as though they were plunging into an abyss, where something monstrous lurked just beyond their understanding. Amelia's laughter, once as melodious as a songbird in spring, had contorted into a cacophony of sound that struck dread into the hearts of those who heard it. It wasn't just a laugh anymore. It was a wicked, sardonic mockery. A laughter devoid of genuine happiness, replaced instead with a malevolence that seemed to relish in the discomfort it engendered. Even the animals sensed the change. Neighborhood dogs would growl and bare their teeth as she passed, while birds would take flight in a frantic rush, as if trying to escape an imminent threat. The usually abundant wildlife of Pluckley seemed to steer clear of her path, as though the very earth itself had recognized her malevolent transformation and recoiled in fear. Her demeanor grew increasingly erratic. Once kind and considerate, she started exhibiting moments of inexplicable cruelty, openly delighting in the discomfort or pain of others. Small incidents were telltale signs, the way she would casually break a bird's wing and then leave it to suffer. How she would snicker watching an old man stumble and fall, or the troubling joy she appeared to derive from setting fire to an abandoned barn, watching the flames dance with a glint of malevolent satisfaction in her eyes. Soon, inexplicable events began to surround her. Objects would move on their own accord whenever she was present. Doors would slam shut, trapping people in rooms, only to swing open again when she let out her twisted laugh. Even the wind seemed to howl a mournful dirge whenever she would step outside, as if nature itself was in mourning. Pluckley, a village long acquainted with tales of hauntings and eerie phenomena, had never seen anything like this. A sense of unease spread like a dark cloud, touching even the bravest souls. The community's simple life of camaraderie and mutual support was being ripped apart, thread by thread, by an evil they couldn't understand. Desperation set in, a collective dread that hung heavy in the air. People started avoiding Amelia at all costs, crossing the street when they saw her coming and locking their doors tight when night fell. Friends and family who had known her since childhood found themselves agonizing over the inexplicable malevolence that now possessed her. Whispers turned into prayers, and prayers into pleas for intervention. Recognizing that the evil in their midst had surpassed their capacity to understand, much less combat, the villagers knew they needed help that transcended the mortal realm. It was then that they decided to reach out to a higher power for an intervention that could save not just Amelia, but the very soul of Pluckley itself. Father Marcus arrived in Pluckley, a seasoned exorcist whose battle-scarred soul carried the weight of decades of service. When he was escorted into the daring wood mansion, an overwhelming force of malevolence met him. Nothing in his years of service had prepared him for this. The room where Amelia was held was an abomination. It seemed as though the very walls wept dark, decaying moisture, and the air was thick with a stench of rot and sulfur. Crucifixes hung lamely from the walls, each corroded and tarnished as if aged a century overnight. "Amelia, can you hear me?" Father Marcus spoke cautiously, his voice tinged with a courage that masked his rising dread. "You are too late, Father. Amelia is not here." The demon spoke through Amelia, her eyes as dark as onyx. Marcus tightened his grip on his rosary, beads digging into his flesh. "In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I command you to reveal yourself." A cacophony erupted, guttural laughter mixed with screams, animalistic growls entangled with human sobs. Amelia's voice was no longer singular, but a multitude, a symphony of the damned. For 3 grueling days, Father Marcus continued his battle, weaving in and out of incantations, prayers, and holy rituals. Each hour was a contest of wills, a draining ordeal that demanded every ounce of his spiritual strength. Objects flew off shelves in bursts of unseen energy, shattering against walls and littering the floor with debris. The room itself seemed to convulse, as if in the throes of an agonizing death. During brief moments of respite, Marcus wiped sweat and blood from his brow. He felt his strength waning, his spirit unraveling thread by thread. "Is this the best your God can do?" the demon taunted, the words like shards of glass. Father Marcus felt his resolve falter. His arms trembled as he held up the cross, his voice cracked as he spoke the Latin verses. But he fought on, fueled by a love for the divine and a hope that even the darkest souls could be saved. On the 3rd day, the demon unleashed a furious roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of the earth. Marcus was hurled across the room, slammed against the wall with bone-crushing force. As he lay on the ground, gasping for air, his eyes met Amelia's, and what he saw there was an abyss of infinite darkness, a void so complete that it swallowed all hope. With a heart burdened by an incomprehensible sorrow, Marcus knew he was outmatched. His body bruised and spirit shattered, he gathered his cloak, each step towards the door an admission of his failure. "Run, old man. Tell your God that hell sends its regards." The demon's laughter echoed in his ears as he exited, each step a mile, each breath a year. Marcus walked to the waiting car, his soul as battered as his body. As the car pulled away, he closed his eyes, clutching his rosary, a man defeated in more ways than he could fathom. He left behind not just Amelia, but a village, a community sinking deeper into the claws of an ancient malevolence. Father Marcus did not look back, for he knew that even if he had walked away, a part of him would remain forever trapped in that damned room, screaming in the dark. 3 days after Father Marcus's departure, Amelia's father, William, was a man frayed at the edges of his soul. The exorcism had failed, and his daughter remained imprisoned within her own body, a husk for the demon that laughed at their misfortune. The villagers whispered, their eyes filled with a haunting mix of pity and fear whenever they passed by the daring wood mansion. Rumors spread like wildfire, fed by the unusual occurrences that now plagued Pluckley. Livestock found mutilated, wild storms that struck without warning, and strange shadows that danced on the walls of the ancient church. William had no options left, his hope extinguished. Father Marcus had been their last shot at salvation, a seasoned exorcist unable to expel the malevolence from his daughter's body. Now the dread that had settled in his heart was a suffocating darkness, blinding him to reason. In the dead of night, he made his way to the room that had become Amelia's prison. The door creaked open with an eerie moan. revealing the nightmare his life had become. His daughter lay on the bed, her body contorted in unnatural angles. Her eyes found his, and what he saw wasn't the loving daughter he had raised, but a malevolent entity that relished in his agony. "You're too late, William," the demon sneered through Amelia, its voice a blend of sinister tones. "You can't save her now." With shaking hands, William pulled out an old family heirloom from his coat, a dagger forged in ancient rites and long believed to possess protective properties. The blade glinted in the dim light, its edge sharp enough to cut the tension that hung in the air. "Forgive me, Amelia," he whispered, his voice breaking as he raised the dagger. "I hope you're somewhere better than this." As the blade descended, a howling wind burst through the room, extinguishing all light. An ear-piercing scream filled the air, not of a demon, but of a young woman momentarily reclaiming her voice. When the lights flickered back on, William found himself holding the dagger against an empty bed. Amelia had vanished, leaving behind only tattered sheets and a room filled with an even darker aura. The walls seemed to close in on him, whispering accusations and blame for a deed almost committed. His knees gave way and he collapsed on the floor, his body racked with sobs. He had been willing to take the life of his own child to free her from the demon's clutches, but even that had been denied him. The malevolence had played its cruelest card yet, leaving him broken and isolated in a room that encapsulated all his failures. Weeks turned into months, and the idyllic village of Pluckley became a ghost of its former self. The once joyous laughter of children no longer resonated through the cobblestone streets, replaced by the somber tone of whispered prayers. Villagers avoided the Daringwood mansion as though it were cursed, which many believed it was. The room where Amelia had vanished remained locked, a tomb of memories too painful to relive. William rarely ventured out of the house, weighed down by guilt and unspoken questions. Where had Amelia gone? Was she safe or forever lost to the dark force that had torn her away from them? One fateful evening, a knock echoed through the lonely halls of the mansion. Cautiously, William opened the door to find Father Marcus, his face aged dramatically since their last meeting, as if carrying years of added life in mere months. "I had to come back," the priest said, his eyes reflecting a struggle between duty and trepidation. "I have found a way, albeit risky, that might free Amelia, wherever she is, from that demon." Though hope was a dangerous thing to cling to, William grasped it with both hands. "What do we need to do?" Father Marcus revealed an ancient scroll, its words written in a language that danced between the comprehensible and the arcane. "A binding ritual," he explained. "It will either expel the demon and free Amelia, or it will seal the room and everything within it, trapping the demon but also your daughter." "What's the third outcome?" William asked, sensing its existence from the priest's hesitation. "That the ritual fails and frees the demon from Amelia while giving it the power to roam freely." And so they proceeded with a heavy heart, chanting words older than time in a room that had seen the darkness of eternity. Candles flickered as if in tune with the incantations, casting menacing shadows on the walls. The air turned thick, almost liquid, as an ominous energy filled the room. Suddenly, Amelia materialized on the bed, her eyes still harboring that malevolent glow. But this time there was a flicker of recognition, a plea perhaps, that lasted but a moment. The demon roared through her, a guttural sound that shook the mansion down to its ancient foundations. "You cannot contain me." With the final words of the chant, Father Marcus slashed his palm, letting his blood drip onto the scroll. A blinding light erupted, enveloping everything in the room. When it subsided, Amelia lay on the bed, her eyes back to their original green, filled with tears. But the room had changed. It was as though they were in a bubble, cut off from the rest of the world. Father Marcus had vanished, seemingly absorbed by the ritual, sacrificing himself to create the binding circle. "Amelia, can you hear me?" William asked, his voice tinged with cautious optimism. "I can, Daddy, but where are we?" "We are in between," William said, struggling to hold back his tears. "It's over, sweetheart, but at a cost we can never repay." And so they remained, a father and daughter, together yet isolated in a room that existed in its own reality. The villagers spoke of the daring wood mansion as a haunted relic, a place where light and dark had waged war and reached an unsettling truce. Though Father Marcus was never seen again, his sacrifice became a legend, a grim tale told to warn others of the dangers that lurk in the spaces between good and evil. For William and Amelia, that room became both a sanctuary and a prison, a testament to the enduring love of a family and the indomitable malevolence of the unknown.